This will actually be our last meeting for calendar year 2019. So let's get started, Melissa, with roll call.
Commissioner Cranston,
Here.
Commissioner McDowell,
Here.
Commissioner Lean,
Here.
Commissioner Tate,
Here.
Commissioner Hill, Commissioner Wood, Commissioner Ettinger, Commissioner Drexel.
Here.
Thank you, Melissa. We have a quorum tonight. Do any of the commission members have a conflict of interest with any of the agenda items? Nope.
None here.
There are none. Okay. We have a fairly short agenda tonight with one action item and a presentation. I guess we probably, before we get too far, we probably should have the Pledge of Allegiance, shouldn't we? Almost out of step here. Mike, would you lead us in the pledge?
I'd be happy to.
If everybody would rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, as stated, none of the commission members have a conflict of interest. I think before we go any further, what we'd like to do is introduce our student rep, Parker Drexel. If Parker would be willing just to maybe say a few comments about what school he's going to and what maybe some of his interests are, we'd like to hear it.
Well, I go to Coeur d'Alene High School. I am a basketball manager this year. I did it last year also, and I was a football manager. One other interest is I like to be in Boy Scouts. I'm an Eagle Scout. So, yeah, I like to be involved.
Good.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Parks and Recreation ought to
Yeah.
kind of be right in your interests.
Right up my alley.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to approval of meeting minutes of our November 18th meeting. Has everybody had an opportunity to look them over, and there aren't any changes or comments? I'll introduce a motion to approve them.
I'd move we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner McDowell and seconded by Commissioner Tate to approve the November 8th, 2019 meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Minutes are approved. Bill, let's have staff report.
So just a couple of comments on some projects that we're currently working on. The grandstands is going along smoothly. The weather's been in our favor. You may have seen, so the roof trusses are going up, so that's moving right along. The Atlas site is looking really good. We're started on the shoreline restoration. Some trees have been removed. If you go down there, it looks really good. It opened that corridor up, and it is absolutely beautiful. It's going to be a great enhancement. So, you know, as we come forward and things start actually coming on the ground, we'll probably have more presentations for you. We can actually show you something other than just dirt being moved around and that sort of thing. So you'll be seeing lots of stuff here in the near future.
Great. Any questions for Bill? Jenny?
No.
Okay. Just a private joke there, folks. Do any of the commissioners have any comments or announcements at this time? Okay. We don't have a large public visiting us here tonight, but is there anybody out there in the audience that would like to make any public comments to this commission that are not part of the agenda? Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Bill, we have one presentation regarding snow removal plan and one action item. Why don't we go ahead and move the snow removal plan presentation to our next item and let you take it over.
And I'll start from there. Okay, thank you, Scott. So we've talked to you before about our staff and the amount of snow removal that we do. And the staff is extremely dedicated in that well, Monty's part of this. I was part of it in years past. So the way that you get to know that you're going to come to work is you've got to set your alarm about 3 a.m. and then look out the window and say, okay, it's snowing, I'm going in. And so throughout the snow season, these men and women get a little wore out because you're not getting a lot of sleep because you're always kind of on the edge thinking it's going to snow and whatever. And I just wanted to demonstrate the amount of work that they actually do out in the field. It doesn't translate as well on this map, but when you're on the ground seeing what they do, it's remarkable that usually we have this entire system done by, what do you say, noon? Usually. So they're out on the ground at the shop by about 4:30, getting their rigs ready, getting things loaded up, and then they hit it. And so just show you what our folks do for us. So there's 39 sites throughout the city that we handle. It's just not parks, so it's the police station, it's the library, it's City Hall, it's every municipal building and parking lot that the street department doesn't handle because their equipment's too big and they're doing the streets. We're doing all the parking lots. So 26 parking lots throughout, and we de-ice. We actually have had an older truck that we put a de-icer on. So we go out and de-ice our own areas. We get the de-ice material from Tim and his crew. They cook that brine themselves, so we go load up our truck, and we have a gal that runs out and does all the sites that need it. And so there's 1,512 parking stalls that are basically that are plowed, 16 acres of parking lots. And so you'll know that we go to each park. And so each parking lot within each park, they're prioritized. We start here in the waterfront corridor and move our way north. If it keeps snowing, we fall back and come here again and start over again and just pick up later on. But every sidewalk, every path, and every parking lot in all the parks and municipal buildings are done by our staff. So Monty's in the middle of all this too, doing the Prairie Trail, Centennial Trail, Kathleen Trail, Atlas Trail, Celtice Trail. And so there's 21.5 miles and 4 miles of sidewalks. So it's quite a bit and the sidewalk stuff, you're on the ground behind a snowblower. And so we have blades on ATVs, we have blades on a mule and a John Deere, a Kubota, and then we have probably 5 or 6 walk-behind blowers that we use. The cemetery, we clear all those roads and then all of the niche areas. Robert, who made the presentation last time we met, he goes in with a blower and cleans out all the niche so that people can get access if they want to go in and visit their relatives. And so the total acreage is just shy of 110. So we did it this way. So the town is busted up. Everybody's responsible for an area. And this is a high priority area here. So Mike Kempton, who you met before, handles all of this. So he gets here early before City Hall and is here and gets everything knocked out so that he can have this ready for all the people who work here, ready for them. The same with this trail, he does this. This is the base trail along Tubbs Hill there. Another team comes in later and they do all the trails in and around this and a path through the plaza area. And then he comes, so he does the trail, the parking lot at Independence Point, and then all of this new BLM corridor here. Museum lot, Fort Grounds, and the access road to the band shell through City Park. That's what this one is here. And there's about 10 or 12 spaces here, Monty, that are on-street parking that he handles as well. Sometimes if the street department doesn't get to it, the roundabouts, we'll do them ourselves too. So between us and Tim's crew, if they don't have a small enough piece of equipment in the area, we take care of it. Robert Cooper, you met before. This is the cemetery. So he not only does the cemetery, but he comes out and does some areas that are outside of his deal. I don't think we noted that he did the sidewalk in front of the cemetery here along Government Way. The same thing's true here with the sidewalk that doesn't look like it got filled in there along the edge of Riverview. But he goes back and does the shop alley here and gets us cleaned out so we can continue to do our jobs. And then the east shop, he takes care of that as well. And then what's this up here he's doing? Do you recognize that, Monty? I don't.
The armory.
Oh, that's the armory. Okay, so that's another one of our shops. So he goes up there and takes care of that.
And he does Tiffany and the library lots.
In the library, okay.
Trigger your mic, Monty.
Yeah. And so this is Bill Andrews. Bill's been with us, gosh, a long time. Bill's been with us way back when he was a seasonal he was here to do Ice Storm and also when Mount St. Helens blew. So he was a seasonal at that time. He's been with us a little bit of time. So these are all the areas that Bill does. Usually these areas are broken up in an area. Bill handles this side of town as just a regular lead worker. These are his parks. And so I can hardly read these, Monty. Can you? It looks like the police station he handles. It goes there first. The Prairie Trail,
Northshire,
Northshire,
Mill
yeah.
River, Ramsey North, Ramsey South,
Yeah,
Stokesfield, Bluegrass,
yeah,
Bluegrass Trails, the landings parking lot, and the landings trails.
yeah. So again, it's nice because our staff is, we're communicating all the time, and what'll happen is Bill will be out here and maybe Monty or Mike's down here in the waterfront corridor, and it's snowing more down here than up there. And he'll call in and say, "How you all doing?" And we say, "We need some help." So he'll run down here, and we do this back and forth. Sometimes we have a little skiff down here in the waterfront, and then up there at Bluegrass, it's blowing and there's drifts. So we then haul up there and go help him. So there's a lot of communication and great work between everybody.
Sometimes there's phone calls at 3 a.m. because we didn't get any snow at our house, but they got 3 inches out at the end of the prairie.
So Larry Walters handles the east end of town. So he handles the Memorial Parking Lot, Cherry Hill Lot, Sunset Field, North Pines, Shattuck, both the trail and the lot, and then the soccer complex, or I'm sorry, Canfield Soccer Lot, and then the trail out in front of there. So this is kind of how far afield his stuff runs out. Tom comes in pretty early. He's our mechanic, and so he comes in and knocks these areas out that are priorities, and then he'll roll back and start fixing equipment. Because as we're running through the day, plows snap, hydraulics go bad, lines break, and so he'll always fall back to the shop and start repairing stuff. And so Memorial Lot, the McEwen Lot, East Tubbs Lot, Jewett House, we handle that one, and the Celtice Trailhead. She's on the de-ice truck that I was mentioning earlier that we built. And so she goes around all through town and hits the areas that need to be de-iced. There's a spot that, it's entrances mostly, and then there's spots that are in front of, we have a wand that we can come off that de-icer truck with and then spray sidewalks in front of the buildings. And so like the police station, she'll come in after they do it and then hose down all the stuff out there. The same thing's true here at City Hall. So she starts a little later to get the guys out in front of her, and then she comes in behind them and takes care of all the business that way. And then, so these are the sidewalk guys. This is Jared and Mark and Andrew. I think you met all of those folks before. But as you see earlier, Mike came in and knocked out these parking lots. They come back in behind Mike and start doing mostly this park and Front Street. And then this piece over here, Monty, what's that one?
That's the parking lot at East Tubbs and the trail.
That's the trail, okay. And so then they handle all City Park and then this BLM corridor all through here where the new skate park is. And there's a total of almost 14 acres of the area that they're doing. Is that, if that is, yeah. 11.9, I can't hardly see that, but yeah.
13.9.
13.9, okay.
And those are the guys that get the coldest. They don't have the nice heated cabs. They look like snowmen by the end of the day.
And so Czar, you met, he was the guy that did the refurbishing of the pickleball courts. So this is his area. And so he's on the ground too, handling all these things. And these are set in priorities in relationship to school routes too. So we get out in front of the kids that are going to go to school, that pieces of ours link to go to their school. So they're on the higher priority list to get them to school in a safe fashion. And then Dave is on the ground too, and these are, again, the areas in which he handles the police station. So that's his first stop in the morning. He gets there before, well, the officers are there 24 hours a day, but he gets there before the public, and we knock out the front of the police station and that front parking lot. We also do the rear parking lot at the police station, which is a bear because it's tight back there. But we try and get out in front of the public so we can just have easier access to everything. So he does the trails at Bluegrass, Soccer Complex, the Landings trails. So at Landings, for example, that 10-acre park, that whole loop gets cleaned up. We get comments from public that use that all the time and thank us a whole bunch because they still get out and exercise. And one year, Monty, when he was doing, it was one year we had a lot of snow, he had to go back out there and cut the Prairie Trail with the Bobcat, I think it was. And the snow wall was about this deep, and a guy sent us a picture of his bicycle. He's riding it to work and said, thanks, and throws his bicycle on the snow bank and just sends us a picture and says, we appreciate all that you do. And so it was nice.
Yeah, the bank was taller than his bicycle.
Yeah. And this is Monty. So he's on the longer route in with the trails, and you get this done usually by 11?
Depending on how heavy the snow is, but start at 4 or 5, get done 5 or 8 hours. Depends on how heavy it is, but usually about 5 hours.
So where this really increased for Monty was just we continually put in more trails. So the Celtice Trail, for example, that's on here now. There's been some discussion that we are going to be working with ITD, and we're going to take over management of the 95 trail. That will include some snow removal. And so Monty's going to need more help in the near future here because it's going to be difficult for one guy to handle that. And the other guys will come in and help when they can. And we try and get out. Your machine is a Kubota RTV. So the areas in which we can actually bring in a truck, we'll pull a truck in there. But some of the spots that he's at, a truck can't get on. So the Prairie Trail or the Atlas Trail, we can run with a truck. The Prairie Trail, we can run with a truck.
Prairie Trail, yes. It's actually too wide for the Kubota unless you want to make 4 passes, so that's why we use a truck on it. The Atlas Trail is difficult for a truck because some of the trees had grown down and there's a deep swell on the other side, but this year I cut all those back so a truck could do it now, yeah.
So we try and get trucks out there to help as much as we can, but you can see he's got, it looks like almost 20, was that 23.3?
21.37.
Okay, good.
Bill, is the 95 trail that you'll be taking over, is that being constructed to be able to take pickup loads that will make that
Yes.
stretch
There
easier?
was some concern that they had placed the actuators for the signal lights for people handicapped to be able to pedestrians to be able to hit the button to change the light. But it looks, Monty went out there just recently and says we can get around it. So that only happened on one intersection. We've had Chris Bosley speaking to them about in the ones that they're going to put in the future, just offset them a little bit for us so we can kind of ink around them a little bit and we'll be okay. We're considering our next plow purchase to be a V plow for one of our trucks. And that way we can capture it as we go through the parking lot and then split it once we get back onto the trail.
And the 95 trail will have a lot of major road crossings, and so a V-plow would gather that snow and push it to the other side instead of dumping a big row of snow that you have to back up and forth over and over again to clean it up with all the traffic around you.
So this is DJ. He works with Robert in the cemetery, so he has some cemetery stuff, but then he goes out and handles some other areas outside, like the Winton sidewalk. Like I said, it's top of the list, so we can get that done for the kids to get to school. So, and then he falls back and does some of the cemetery work, the niche gardens, that kind of thing. And his is only a couple acres, but it's still a lot when you're on the ground just doing it with a blower. And then all the areas, it totals up to, let's see, Monty, I can't see, it was almost 110, right? So, yeah.
My eyes are almost as bad as yours.
Yeah, almost
I think
as
it
bad as
says
mine. It's time to go see a doctor. Yeah.
109.11.
So anyway, that's what our team does, and they do it all winter long. And I'm just proud of them. They just work real hard on it, and they get it done with a good attitude. It's fun, but if it keeps coming, which it does sometimes, it gets a little tiresome. But they stick it out and get it done. And then when they're not doing snow removal, they're in the shop working on equipment and or refurbishing benches and picnic tables and getting things going. Monty and Mike are working on our Parks Master Plan, Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So you'll see that coming forward here sometime this spring. We'll have you guys look at it before we bring it forward to get comments, and then we'll bring it forward for adoption. So that's the kind of things that we'll do off-season. Right now, it's not bad weather. We're doing tree work. And so the guys we're going through each area and starting to just putting together a nice program where we're really making a stab at making it to each park on I think it was a 4-year or 3-year cycle.
One of the new facilities the city has is the downtown parking structure on 3rd and Coeur d'Alene. Is that something that's kind of added to your sidewalk snow removal plan?
We always had the sidewalks around, because if you recall, there was a little parking lot there that we used to plow. And so now with the covered parking, we don't have to plow that, but we do work on the sidewalks around the perimeter.
Yeah.
So it's still on our list to do.
Okay. Any questions for Bill?
Comment?
Yeah.
Hey, Bill, I really appreciated you bringing the guys in and really showing us the scope of what you've done. I've been on this committee a long time, and really it's been great. And I could see what a team you guys are and working together. So thank you. It's been really eye-opening for me.
Good. Well, I think, it's always the director's face, and I think it's really important to see the people that are really getting that field work done. And so I've always, I kept thinking what I would do is, like, when Monty has an item, I can show Monty, you can see Monty. But then it occurred to me, somebody like DJ really won't have an item. So I thought it was important to try and bring them forward with other things, because it just never presented itself so you guys could and gal be introduced to them. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I recognize, when they come to this meeting, they're late to dinner or miss dinner, and so, but I really appreciate that they've come and shared with us.
I'll
I think
convey
this
that to them.
commission appreciates you kind of introducing the people behind all the work that gets done with the
Right.
parks and recreation programs, and I think the community that watches does as
Thank you.
well.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on is our one action item tonight regarding a grant application for the Coeur d'Alene 3rd Street Boat Launch Project. Bill, I'll go ahead and read the staff report, and then if you'd pick it up from there and maybe fill in some of the detail. The decision point tonight, whether the Parks and Recreation Commission would seek permission from the City Council to apply for a Waterfront Improvement Fund grant to purchase new boat docks and pilings at the 3rd Street Boat Launch. For 45 years, the 3rd Street launch ramps have been one of the highest used recreational access areas for boaters in the state. Services nearby include a no-cost marine pump out, a mooring area where boaters may tie up, 50 boat trailer parking stalls, a trailhead to Tubbs Hill, and access to McEwen Park, the Centennial Trail, and downtown shopping. These docks haven't been replaced since 2001 and have gone past the point where they can be repaired. The timber floats and cross beams are rotted, which make repairs difficult if not impossible. The pilings have been hit and dinged to the point that they will break off and fall if they aren't replaced. The largest portion of the funds for the boat dock and piling purchase will come from a state-funded WIF grant, Waterfront Improvement Fund, with the Coeur d'Alene Parks Department providing the grant match dollars. The grant match funds will come from the city's Waterfront Improvement Fund, paid for by boater launch user fees. So breaking it down, the City Waterfront Improvement Fund, which are funds from user and launch fees, $21,884. State Waterfront Improvement Fund grant dollars is $124,007, coming to a total of $145,000, $145,891. The new pilings will be made of steel, and the dock's frame will be made of steel with polystyrene floats. The deck will be made of composite material. These docks are estimated to last for 50 years before needing replacement, as opposed to 15 to 20 years for wooden docks. This design of docks is what we have along the seawall and have held up extremely well. Again, the decision tonight would be whether to recommend to City Council to give permission to the Parks and Recreation Department to apply for an IDPR Waterfront Improvement Fund grant to purchase new boat docks and pilings at the 3rd Street boat launch.
So Monty is going to give you the PowerPoint presentation and show you some pictures of what the docks condition they're in now, and some pictures of so what we're looking for right now, you all have been there a bunch at that site, and the type of dock that we want to use or have if we get this grant is the same dock that's along the seawall. So that's the steel with the poly float basins are underneath, and a Trex type decking. They look almost as good as they did the day we put them in. Some larger boats have busted bull rails over the years, but that's about the extent of the damage that we've had. And so we just replace those as we find them, and they're in great shape. And with that, I'll let Monty go ahead and take it from there.
So the name of the grant is the Coeur d'Alene 3rd Street Launch and Boat Dock Replacement Program. So we've already went over the financial cost in the staff report. We're matching about 15% at this point, but the construction is quite a bit stronger and sturdier, and it should last twice as long. Like Bill was saying, the seawall dock was replaced in 2004. The boat launches were replaced in 2001. They're 3 years older, but they're falling apart, and the new ones look brand new. So here's some pictures. It's hard to see in the photo to the right there, but as you can see, that's a steel decking that is in between the two different floats on the docks. And to the left there, between the bowl rails, there are steel buckles that snap into each other that keep the ramps from being displaced too far. So if you have somebody heavy stepping on one side, both sides are going to go down. So those snap. If you step on one side, the one side goes pretty down and the other side stays floating, and so you have a foot gap that you can trip over and hurt yourself. And you can see here on the left picture, not only are they crooked from each other from being hit so many times, this isn't even the worst piling we have. They're chipped away to the point where it looks like a woodpecker or a beaver have gotten a hold of them. So these are the buckles I was telling you about. We had just replaced all the bolts that go through these shackles into the cross timbers just a few months ago, and they've already popped out just because the wood is rotted to the point where it won't hold the bolts. And so, and you can see in the picture to the left, the interior of these floats are starting to rot away. I mean, these cedar floats they'll last a long time, but the integrity of them don't last forever as far as holding the metal material we need to keep the docks together. Seems like my PowerPoint, when it converted to PDF, didn't save all the files. Actually, they're all missing now.
Do you have another one?
Yeah.
We can just speak to it. So this is really just how the condition is, that it's just pretty poor. And the other pictures just demonstrate some of this with some other shots that show you those cross members where what he was calling, it's actually they call it a pin connector. And what it is, it's where that transition plate's at. And so he has some more pictures of that. And then there's some shots of similar docks, but again, you've all launched there enough to know the kind of dock that we're looking at is the one along the seawall. And so with that, I will take any questions about what you guys experienced down there, because I know many of you have boats and have seen what goes on down there.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I guess I would make one comment with regard to the state funding. What that really amounts to, those are boater registration fees that are paid by local boaters to register their boats. When they register, they're offered an opportunity to designate the primary area of use, and we get a significant number because of the number of boat registrations that are done here in Kootenai County. They designate this area, and I can speak to what some of the older numbers were, but it's certainly well above 70% of the boat registrations statewide. The state administers that for us and takes a little cut out of the fees that are paid for that service, and then returns the balance for use for just this sort of thing in our area. And it's up to us to make sure that we're providing the facilities that match the amount that they're paying for those services.
Thank you.
Now, that same money could be dispersed to other parts of the state. So down in Boise or McCall, they could get all that money. So that's why we have to make sure we have a nice, strong grant to get approved.
I fully support that idea.
And I made a mistake on Facebook. And in this staff report where I stated it was a state gas tax where the state's funds come from, but you're right, it's the boater registration fees.
Bill or Monty, would you like to elaborate a little bit on where the funds are coming from the city's match through that dedicated waterfront improvement?
Sure. So this is, our match is coming out of user fees. So not only does it come from folks that pay to launch, but it also is generated from our commercial vendors that are on our waterways. So those lease agreements that we have come into that fund. And so it's all through user fees. And so there's no tax dollars that are being used for this. There's none of the funding coming out of the parking lot funding that goes into our parks capital improvement are part of this. So they're totally separate.
Thank you. Anything else?
Sounds good.
Well, if there's no further discussion or questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, I would be glad to make a motion to recommend to the City Council that they authorize the Parks and Recreation Department to apply for the Idaho Parks and Recreation Waterfront Improvement Fund grant to purchase new boat docks and pilings for our Third Street boat launch.
I would second.
Okay. Motion's been made by Commissioner McDowell and seconded by Commissioner Tate to recommend City Council authorize the Parks and Recreation Department to apply for an IDPR Waterfront Improvement Fund grant to purchase new boat docks and pilings at the Third Street boat launch. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion moves forward unanimously, and I guess it will go to General Services.
Next Monday.
Okay. Great. That kind of brings us to the end of our agenda. Any last-minute comments or announcements by the commission?
Well, I guess I would offer everyone a Merry Christmas. It's the next big event coming just about a little over a week away.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Okay, just a couple of meeting announcements then. Tuesday, January 7th, that would actually be 2020. 11:30 a.m. at Caruso's Deli here in Coeur d'Alene will be our regular Park and Rec workshop. Again, at our workshops, we don't have any action items that we deal with. They're information-only meetings to kind of bring us up to speed on upcoming agenda items.
Will do.
Our next regular commission meeting then will be Monday, January 27th, 2020, 5:30 right here in the library community room. And again, I guess for this next month in January and again in February, we'll be meeting a week later than normal due to
Because of the holidays.
Holidays.
Yes, correct.
Vacations. Okay. Well, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. Second.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made by Commissioner Lean and seconded by Commissioner Tate to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.